Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Jones on the Politicus Pod for Politicus USA's The Daily. Make sure you subscribe to our Substack so you don't miss any episodes. Today, we're talking about House Republicans have you no sense of decency. It used to be taken for granted that political warfare should be focused on the elected person, while the family would be left alone. This is the shield, for example, behind which Jenny Thomas has hidden, even as she is actively interfering in U.S. politics, trying to overthrow an election, and has interests in cases that come before her husband, Clarence Thomas. On December 6, 1950, President Truman wrote a scathing letter to a Washington Post music critic, Mr. Hume, who had, perhaps too accurately, reported on his daughter Margaret Truman's singing performance at Constitutional Hall. His letter promised, "Someday I hope to meet you. When that happens, you will need a new nose, a lot of beefsteak for black eyes, and perhaps a supporter below." While Truman's threats against a member of the press are rather uncouth and off-putting, it's also notable that those were the days, apparently, when a president could defend their child from mere criticism. Not so much anymore. There was a moment during Thursday's hearing when the cruelty of an entire political party using the resources of the U.S. House to go after the troubled son of the president was made crystal clear. And it should be a moment of reckoning for the political pundits who have so far been way too enabling of the abuse of this family. This is when Representative Jasmine Crockett, she took a flamethrower to the Republicans' depraved pretend impeachment hearing. She pointed out the hypocrisy in what Republicans are doing. And she said that, I've put her video on the Substack, by the way, but it's a little long bit of a clip. So she highlighted the hypocrisy of how they weren't paying attention to actual evidence that implicates Donald Trump. That he took our national secrets, for example. And that is an example of a high crime and misdemeanor, felony in his position. But compare that to what they're doing with President Biden. And she said, I will tell you what this president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally. And that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me as much as he loves his child. So what we have here that she pointed out so well, we have the Family Values Party basically prosecuting Biden for loving his son unconditionally. When Crockett got to the part where she said that President Biden's only crime was loving his son unconditionally, it really brought home that the self-identified party of family values is now prosecuting President Joe Biden for loving his son. What fresh hell is this? They know they don't have any evidence against Joe Biden. One of their own witnesses tried to impugn President Biden in a Wall Street Journal op-ed in which she ever so conveniently left the Hunter off of the name Biden in her title, while falsely suggesting that the reader would go to jail were they to do what Hunter did. Democrats have all agreed, though, that Hunter Biden should face whatever charges anyone else would face, but that isn't even what's actually happening. Hunter Biden is facing charges that are harsher than most people would face. And this is because he's being treated like he's not even a human being. He's nothing but collateral damage in this Republican hunt for something with which to wound President Biden. After all, Republicans need to make their 4 times criminally indicted guy look sellable, and they can't do that against the real Joe Biden. So they're not only making up a fake Joe Biden, but they're brutally attacking his only remaining son, an addict with personal struggles and someone in deep grief over losing his brother. The party of family values is literally attacking a man for loving his son unconditionally. That is what they have on Joe Biden. And it kind of hurts the soul to watch the media, who are supposed to be the, quote, gatekeepers, unquote, of morality in this country, God help us all, just let them feast on Hunter Biden's emotional carcass like it's not shameful, like it's not obvious that they are trying to take down his father by bringing Hunter to his knees until he's using again. Addiction struggles are universal, and this is the same party that doesn't believe in abortion because family is supposedly so precious to them. How many of Republicans' own families have an addict child? The odds are pretty high. Among Americans aged 12 and older, 37.309 million were current illegal drug users, used within the last 30 days as of 2020. 13.5% of Americans 12 and older used drugs in the last month, a 3.8% increase over year to year. 59.277 million, or 21.4% of people 12 and over have used illegal drugs or misused prescription drugs in the last year. 138.543 million, or 50% of people aged 12 and over, have illicitly used drugs in their lifetime. So the odds are even higher, given Republican affinity for guns, that some of those children also own guns and lied on their applications like Hunter Biden did. But those same Republicans would cry foul witch hunt if their own kids were taken down as they are doing to Hunter. And, it brought to mind, is Representative Boebert prepared to put her family under this same spotlight? No one's family deserves this. How many of their own families have someone who hasn't handled grief well, whatever that means? Because this, too, is sadly universal. Hunter Biden is guilty of human failings. He is neither a criminal mastermind, nor is he a career criminal. He is no Donald Trump. In all of this, the media is still complicit. This represents such a departure from what is acceptable warfare in politics, and yet has been roundly accepted by the media under the guise of investigating Hunter Biden's alleged crimes. Notably, they don't offer the same energy for Jared Kushner, who made $2 billion from the Saudis shortly after leaving the White House, and Ivanka Trump, who made $640 million as a top White House official. Both Jared and Ivanka were actually in the White House during Trump's term, so if anything, they should be held to a higher standard than Hunter Biden. Additionally, their financial windfalls happened during and around their time in Trump's White House. But Hunter Biden was already charged for something that most people are not charged for. And during Thursday's hearing, Representative Greg Casar asked committee members to raise their hands if they believe that both Hunter Biden and Donald Trump should be held accountable for any indictments if convicted, and 0 Republicans raised their hands. every Democrat raised their hand. So the media doesn't need to gatekeep Democrats over Hunter Biden. Literally, no one is out there saying he should get away with something that others would be charged with. This phony pearl-clutching act is a sickening display by an industry that has lost its way in a morass of smug both-siderisms and can no longer even see what's in front of it, let alone do their own responsibility for enabling it. And this, too, is a reflection of the media trying to maintain their own grip of power with the appearance of neutrality at the expense of reality. You know, I get it, because it isn't easy these days to report what is actually happening, because it so consistently favors Democrats in comparison to the anti-democracy party. But that is a reality the media should have the courage to admit, seeing as it is their job as the Fourth Estate to serve as a watchdog over our democracy. The job is not to protect the Republican Party, the job is to protect the democracy by informing and educating citizens. The media will be complicit in whatever harm might come to Hunter Biden as a result of being treated a bit too much like Britney Spears was during her breakdown. There is zero oversight requirement over the president's children who are not involved in the administration, so there is no legitimacy to this despicable display. And we all know that if Republicans got legitimate pushback and negative press from the media, they would turn their desperation elsewhere. And anyway, you know, Democrats don't require the media to police them. They do it themselves. A windfall of Democrats are calling for Senator Menendez to step down because he is under indictment. And while Speaker McCarthy's, crime spree fraudster, Representative George Santos, he lets him stay on even after he's been indicted for fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and more. Santos is someone who allegedly stole from a disabled veteran's dying dog. But the thing is, Santos fits in with this Republican Party. They are literally led by a man who is currently facing 91 criminal indictments in 4 separate indictments and has been found liable for fraud and rape in additionally separate legal proceedings. So this isn't an apples to apples or even apples to oranges comparison. It's apples to rancid, slimy, murky brown meat a year past its sell date, being force-fed to orphans in a Dickens novel. Why is the media not crying to leave Hunter Biden alone? Where are the media personalities near fainting with butthurt emails outrage over Republicans weaponizing the full weight of the U.S. House of Representatives to attack a sitting president's son, whom the Justice Department is already going after with a feverish vigor that is giving off a partisan stink we are all pretending to ignore? What exactly excuses this reprehensible abuse of power against an innocent bystander? And yes, I'm going to go ahead and call Hunter an innocent bystander in the sense that he has done nothing to warrant the full force of the U.S. media, Department of Justice, IRS, and House of Representatives coming down on him. The House Republicans' attack on Hunter Biden is grotesque and cruel, and deliberately so. You know, given that Joe Biden lost his other son to brain cancer and lost his first daughter and first wife in a tragic car accident in which both Beau and Hunter were also injured, That kind of event changes a person permanently, and I really can't imagine what goes through Joe Biden's mind as he's watching his only remaining son attacked this way and pushed over the edge. This kind of attention, this kind of negative attention and legal threat would push anyone over the edge. We've seen what it's done to celebrities who weren't facing criminal indictments. You know whose heart didn't hurt for the Biden family as Representative Crockett spoke about the president's only remaining son, how much he loved his son unconditionally. It just made me think, what a man, what a father, and finally, what a loved kid. How unusual. Perhaps highlighting this kind of love is the only gift Republicans are going to give the public. This kid is so loved by his father that the New York Times wrote that President Biden keeps Hunter close by even as his son puts him in political peril. The possibility of a federal indictment of Hunter Biden has stunned the president, yet the bond between him and his only surviving son is ironclad. Of course, the deal that Hunter made, which was a harsher sentence than most people would get according to legal experts, has fallen apart due to Republican outrage that he wasn't being punished enough. The same people who think that domestic abusers should have a gun are going this hard at Hunter over lying on his gun application about his drug use. Certainly not something I'm excusing, and I don't want that kind of lie just ignored and dismissed, but it doesn't warrant what's happening right now. They're not even in the same universe. And also, it isn't Hunter who put Joe Biden in political peril. The political peril that Joe Biden faces is squarely rests on the shoulders of the Republican Party. The Republican Party is using the president's only surviving son to put the president in political peril. Hunter is, again, an innocent victim in all of this, someone who should be left alone to focus on his recovery while he makes restitution for the minor tax issue for which he was indicted. Instead, Republicans are pushing him to self-destruct. How many of us could withstand what he's going through? Republicans train their spotlights on Hunter Biden, and now they're running him over in public every single day, showing revenge porn of him in their hearings, dragging him through the mud in the media, and using him to hurt his father. No family should have to face what the Biden family has already faced. Yet here we are watching the U.S. government push someone into self-harm. Also, the Republicans can excuse the lifetime alleged crimes of their party leader. It's so morally repugnant that it brings to mind Army lawyer Joseph Welch's infamous shaming of Republican Senator Joseph McCarthy during the 1954 Army McCarthy hearings. Until this moment, Senator, I think I never really gauged your cruelty or your recklessness. Let us not assassinate this lad further, Senator. You have done enough. Have you no sense of decency? Have you no sense of decency? That is the lingering question. That is the takeaway from these hearings. This has been Sarah Jones on the Politicus Pod for Politicus USA's The Daily, and if you are tired of billionaires controlling the news you see, and you want to support independent news that puts the people and democracy first, please subscribe to our Substack.